love this, right? Like I love podcasting. I love what I do. I've truly put in 10,000 plus hours in this thing and I'm continuing to do so. I don't give a fuck that you started, honestly. I give a fuck if you make it to episode 15. Because that means that you've given it enough time where it's like, you know what? There's been challenges, right? And I'm still doing it. Because I don't give a fuck that you recorded 2 pods with your homie. Everybody thinks, hey, oh, this is fun. I'm going to record. Somebody's going to edit this. It's going to go out. I'm magically going to get random followers. That's just not the fucking reality. I tell people all the time, I'm like, yo, in an ideal world, I would come up here, I would pod for 2 to 3 hours, and I would go the fuck home. Offload it to whoever.
I
agree. Y'all got the edits. Y'all got the rollout distribution. Y'all book the next guest. When we first started, like we were putting out maybe like 50 outbound DMs a week. 50 outbound DMs, like clockwork. Like anybody and everybody. It's like, yo, DM. Like if you've named somebody who's in the space that I'm in, we've probably DM'd them. And what I've realized is that when the product is good and people have good experiences, just like in any type of sales role or any type of business, hospitality, people will then come to you. What this allows, right, is the ability to create other revenue streams that are not tied to it, but are correlated to it. I think about the deals that I've negotiated in the year that I've been operating, and I'm like, damn, some of these deals, number-wise, would not make sense. Do not make sense, straight up.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, bro.
I'm fired up, guys, and appreciate you having me on. We're definitely gonna chop it up.
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. And welcome back to the Growth Street Podcast. I noticed your podcast has over 3,000 followers on Instagram, over almost 3,000 on TikTok, and you almost had 500 on YouTube. So you're putting up really good numbers, especially on like the social media space. I think because you have such amazing guests. So I want to really understand, how did you create this podcast? Like, tell me, I would love to know, how does someone who has no experience ever, like, how'd you fucking get started, man?
Bro, just like you, like just like you and anybody who starts anything.
Bro.
You start. You just start. Like, I think like people think that there's like some genius or like some like elaborate master plan, right? Like maybe people think like, oh, this is an idiot. He's just like lucking into shit, right? Maybe. But I think like you just start. I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you talk to anybody who's ever done anything, like I'm in a very privileged position because of the podcast, right? Which we can talk about, like how giving the podcasting space is in terms of like the other value, right? Like you're talking about like views and like, numbers, right? Which of course important, but I think about like the relationships.
That's a big one.
I think about the relationships I've been able to make because of podcasting.
This one right now, seriously.
Right? This crazy relationship, right? Like I've gotten to meet like people that I admire in business, music, entertainment because of this podcast, right? And I think like when people talk about, and if you talk to them who are further down the line, they'll tell you the same thing. It's, yo, I didn't have this master plan. I started.
What was day zero? What was it? How did you start?
Day zero, I think for me, it comes with like a affinity for podcasting as an art form. And then I think it comes to my culture, right? And when I describe my culture, I think that we are seeing a transition of the South Asian stereotype be moved right in front of us. Like, think about it. Like, yo, like me and you were around the same age, right? When we were growing up, can you name anybody that was South Asian and cool to you?
To me, dude, growing up,
not Bollywood. Cool to you.
Yeah, man. I would say like no, like there was no. Off the top of my head, like if I really have to think about it, but I would say no one jumps out at me.
I would say like when I got to a certain age,
I don't even know if that counts. Like Jay Sean. Like,
again, like like when I think of those people, I think of like very few people for a long era of our.
Yeah, like no one then.
Basically. Like I think about like Jay Sean, I think about Zayn Malik, right? Like those are like the names that pop up, right? So when you talk about like day zero, I look at podcasting, and I'm all like, okay, this is a thing, and then I look at the South Asian space. I'm all like, okay, like now we got South Asian music. We got Hanuman Khan, #1 hit, right? We got South Asian music. We got South Asian businesses. We got South Asians as a demographic that is one of the richest socioeconomic demographics, period. Right, period.
It's like I think it's #1 in the U.S. right now.
Exactly. Right? And so you're talking about a demographic that so there's a market. So now it's like, where are the products for that market? Because if again, people are always going to spend money. Right? Like you're always, like your girl is always going to want a bag. Like you're always going to eat some food.
Facts.
But for them, if you want to say, hey, I want them to support a South Asian product, you have to then provide a product. And not a bullshit product. Oh, just rock with me because I'm brown, or just rock with me
yeah.
because I'm from New York, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You need a real product. So I would say Day Zero is this is my third podcast.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
This is my third podcast, right?
Okay.
Because I've been in the space.
Yeah.
Third podcast. But the first two, again, like you're young, you're like, again, kudos to you because you came in like for somebody who didn't do this.
Yeah.
Like put it together.
You had to watch episode 1. That shit was ass.
Again, but everybody's
No,
is.
I know.
Everybody's.
I'm keeping it real for everyone watching. It's like
everybody's is.
Yeah, it's like you don't even realize how much things change so fast if you're doing the right things. Like that's why even I was looking at your show, right? Your first episode. Now I watched your last episode. You have so much swagger and confidence when you're introducing your guests, when you're just talking. The first episode you did, you and your, I don't know how you know him, but you guys were kind of like, it was like such a soft start, which is not a bad thing. Even for me, my first shot, I was in the bottom left camera of the screen. There's all this headspace. You can't even see my body. Like it's all messed up, right? So for me, it's like, I don't think it's so easy to like get caught up in numbers and be like, oh, I'm not doing the numbers that I want and I'm not succeeding the way I want to succeed. But if you compare where you are right now to where you were when you started, for example, which for me it was like 10 months, maybe like a year, it's like, think about who we've met, what we've got to do, all the things that have happened, and like what we've learned. Because I think that is where it's like, oh my God, that's such a big difference.
And yeah, like what you're describing is just because LeBron was playing in high school did not change the fact that he was fucking LeBron.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yo, just because of whatever number you're at or whatever number I'm at, that don't change how good
of a talent you are.
Of a talent I am, right? Yeah. Like people get that twisted, right? Like you'll see that on like, I'm sure you've seen it on your videos. You'll see it on my TikTok comments, my Instagram comments. It's like, yo, why is this guy talking his cash shit and like he only putting up XYZ numbers, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, fam, I don't care if I put up 0 numbers.
Yeah.
I know how nice I am on the court, right? Like I know how nice I am on the court. And that's not like a
braggadocious. It's confidence.
That's not arrogance or confidence, right? It's because I've truly put in 10,000 plus hours in this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm continuing to do so. That's the other part of the confidence, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure, like, yo, you were just telling me, yo, you were up till 8 a.m. editing.
Yeah, literally.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't, I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't care what numbers. I know I'm putting in the work.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me is enough validation of
100%.
anything else.
I think the biggest thing, especially for like people who want to create a podcast, is the only way to actually have confidence when you're speaking or whether you're creating is that you're knowing, like confidence comes from achievement, not by numbers, but by proof to your own mind, right? For example, it's like whether it's internal validation and external validation, right? Like let's say you want to, you think you're good looking, right? But if you look in the mirror, you don't think you're good looking, or no girls think you're good looking, I'm sorry, you're not good looking. And then your confidence is like a false confidence in yourself. You want to be that, but you don't even think that yourself, and you never see that from other people, right? So I think the big thing is, especially for podcasters, is like, I think the most important thing for me was getting started, and then like I think you have to make it like a craft, like anything else. Like this is not something you do where it's like, oh, it's one leg of your business, spend an hour on it a week, and you're done. No, it's like, all right, I have to be the best interview possible. I have to be the best show possible. What is the draw for my show? What reason do people have to want to be here? Lean into those things. What do I have to do better, right? Is it make it a better visual experience? Maybe make it a better audio experience? Do I have to look better? Do I have to lose some weight? Look a little better on camera? Do I have to ask better questions? Whatever it is, like you have to figure out, okay, how can I make this show the best possible? Because I am not anyone right now. Objectively, you're not anyone, I'm not anyone. We have no crazy we're not famous when we were young. None of that exists.
Yeah.
We're people who are trying to make it from zero. So you have to make it as high of a quality product as possible while also being like a high quality product yourself, not even the show. I think if you focus on doing those two things, like even like, bro, for example, this whole studio, the first episode, all we had was this table, this mic, and this chair. And then I see, and I was studying other artists, like people like you, people like Jay Shetty, all these people, and it's, okay, they have these back tables, they have these lights, they have these signs on the wall, and it's figuring out how I can get better every single time I do an episode, and then next thing you know, compounds, and now I look at what we have now, I look at what you have now, it's like, dude, it's night and day.
Bro, it's the war of art, right? Like people think that because this is like a creative field that it's not a business like everything else that we do, right? Obviously like I have a background in working in corporate, right? Like I worked at Amazon for like 5+ years.
Yeah.
And you get to see, although like sometimes like when you're in a corporate environment, you complain about like, oh, there's so much red tape and there's so much bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
But now as a business owner, you realize like systems and processes are in place for a reason, because for your business to scale and for your business to move efficiently, those things are necessary.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like a tough thing for you to say about yourself and your business, because when we talk about businesses, especially like us, that we are a part of our business, those systems and processes start with you, right? The personal parts of my life is my business as well.
It's part of it now. Yeah, it is.
Right? Like, again, it doesn't matter if I'm having a bad day. It doesn't matter if me and my girl are beefing. It doesn't matter if me and the homie are falling out.
Yeah.
If those things fuck up my day, they are also fucking up my business.
Yeah, it is.
Right? I got however many hours every week and every day. I got 24.
Seriously.
Right? If I spend 5 hours on dealing with some bullshit, or even not even some bullshit, some real life shit. Because I talk to I think talking to like a lot of mentors of mine. Yeah. There's two approaches.
Okay, what are they?
One is you can compartmentalize your entire life. It takes a mental fortitude. Yeah. Right. It doesn't matter that you and your girl are beefing. You had a job to do here. Yeah. Right. Like realistically, like it doesn't matter. An hour ago I could have been on the phone dealing with like a real life issue.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
But when I come up here, my job is
put it up, lock it away, and now you're dialed in. Yeah.
You're an NBA athlete. It doesn't matter if you had a shitty practice.
It was Game 7 of the finals. You got to play.
You think LeBron cares? It's Game 7 in the finals, right? Nobody cares that you had a bad day or didn't have a good night's sleep.
Your kid is sick.
Nobody cares. Like right there, you're there to perform a job.
So what's the second one?
The second one is a more difficult one for people to swallow, which is you don't have any other life. Yeah. Right? Like this is your life. Right? Like there's no compartmentalizing. Like I think that the two approaches I've seen, some of my mentors have completely sacrificed like years of their life to get to a point where it's like, okay, now I can focus on maybe having a relationship, maybe having time for my friends. Yeah. Right? But if you're trying to do all of the things, you have to compartmentalize, because the alternative is like, you put your life on hold for 5 to 7 years, work 80, 90 hours a week, and then you put your head up and are like, okay, like what's left?
We got somewhere,
What's left? You got somewhere in your business. Yeah. But you also did sacrifice.
It is,
You sacrifice developing friendships, developing relationships, whatever.
And I think a lot of that too is like, I think from those 2 points, me and you both, I think anyone who's trying to make a business and like live their dream, you do have to do a little bit of both of that, because I think for you to make Chai work, for me to make this work, you have to sacrifice. It's a competition, not in a bad way, but in like a way with yourself. You're competing with yourself to make this work, right? Because if this doesn't work, it's not because the algorithm wasn't supporting my channel. No, it's because I'm not doing enough to make it work, right? So even me, there's so many things you have to optimize for or sacrifice. Like, for example, time with your friends, right? Do I want to be going to a bar on a random Thursday night? Or do I need to be making some clips for the weekend, right? I was in Nashville 3 weekends ago. Do I want to, just go out and day drink the entire time I'm there? Or do I want to make street interview content to, gain a following or whatever it is, right? It's like you have to find ways to sacrifice, but I think you can get creative with it too. And I think the big balance is like you have to actually love this, because if you don't love this, then you're going to like burn yourself out of it, and then you're going to waste that time. And then you're actually going to look at it like wasted time. Yeah. And that's the last thing you want.
I'm glad that you said you have to love this, right? Because I want to talk about that, right?
Let's do it.
Is that you have to love this, but loving this does not mean that other parts of doing it are not going to be uncomfortable.
Yes, agree.
Right? Like I love this. I know that I love this, right? Like I love podcasting. I love what I do. But there are certain parts of my job
I fucking hate it.
that I hate. Like, I don't honestly, I tell people all the time, I'm like, in an ideal world, I would come up here, I would pod for 2 to 3 hours, and I would go the fuck home. Yeah, right?
Offload it to
whoever.
Yeah, I agree.
Y'all got the edits, y'all got the rollout distribution, y'all book the next guest, right? Yep. But that's not the reality of the job that I have, right? Yeah. I am not good enough or talented enough right now.
Or just large enough. You don't have the ability to do it.
Exactly, right? It's like one thing if you're like Joe Budden or Joe Rogan, where you've built these systems and processes.
And you have the money to do it. Like you can literally say, here's your money, do your job.
Do your job, right? But in startup land,
none of that shit.
And I'm a first year, second year founder land. You are in the trenches.
Yeah, you're recording, you're editing, you're marketing, you're posting, you're doing literally everything. You're creating, you're idealizing, you're booking. What I've had to do in this last year since I started is more than I've ever had to do anything in my entire life. You said earlier, you're only 24 hours in a day. I never even thought that way until this. I never did. I always was like, oh, it's a long day, but finally it's over. I'll just, go eat some grub and I'm done. For me now, it's like, oh my God, I got to eat. I don't want to waste 20 minutes eating. But that's me being genuine, because everyone who knows me knows that I'm on a mission to make this work, right? And I know sometimes it's hard. Everyone tells me just have fun, come to the family event. I'm so close with my family. We're really tight. I'm sure you know, brown culture family is really ingrained into who we are as people. And recently, I was literally 2 days ago, I was in New York for Friday night into Saturday, and then Saturday night it was my uncle's. It's a big family event. And I decided, I can't do 2 fun nights in a row. I literally can't do it. Or I'm going to feel so dirty with who I am, and I'm losing 2 days on my life dream. So what I have to do, I have to be the one who's I'm not going to go. And did it suck not being able to see my family? My whole entire, yeah, but that's what it takes if you want to make that per one. Again, I'm not anything yet right now, right? It's I'm not monetized on anything. I have a couple thousand subscribers, but that's nothing right now for me. But I know to where I want to get to. You sacrifice now, so that way, again, as you said, you don't have to do it later.
Yeah, and again, that's the realities that people don't really face until they start, or people don't face until they actually continue.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody starts, but then as soon as those things start coming up, as soon as those family commitments, as soon as those life challenges start coming up, are you still willing to do it?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck that you started, honestly.
Yeah.
Right? I give a fuck if you make it to episode 15.
Yes.
Because that means that you've given it enough time where it's you know what? There's been challenges, right? And I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
Because I don't give a fuck that you recorded 2 pods with your homie, right?
Yeah.
Anybody.
Anyone, a lot of podcasts, the average episode, most podcasts end after 3 to 4 recordings.
Right, because everybody thinks, hey, this is fun. I'm going to record. Somebody's going to edit this. It's going to go out. I'm magically going to get random followers. That's just not the fucking reality.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not. People, I think that's a very arrogant view, and one that, again, I'm not I'm not harping on anybody here, right? That's a method that I had.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I talked about I had 2 podcasts before. Mm-hmm. Those 2 podcasts, I truly thought I was so talented on a mic.
Yeah.
That just the audio, putting it up on Spotify, somebody go and listen to this and be like, damn, this kid's so fucking talented.
I'm gonna come every single week to listen to this.
Yeah, this kid's so fucking talented. Let's make him the next Jimmy Fallon. Let's give him a bag and give him a show and give him a production budget.
Yeah.
It's so egotistical for you to think that, right?
Yeah.
Because the reality is there's motherfuckers like me and you in the trenches that are putting in hours and sacrificing family, sacrificing money, sacrificing relationships,
sleep.
Right? Sleep, bro.
Yeah.
That's the uncomfortable part. But anybody who's done anything worth doing, they will all say it. That none of them got there because they didn't sacrifice.
That's what I'm saying. Even for me, right, on Thursday, I had my biggest ever moment recording, right? So for me, it was, I've done every episode here, and I love what I've built here. And I had an opportunity to record with someone who was my biggest follower, objectively, societable, measurable guest. He more than everyone I've had combined. So for me, I had a chance to go there and record, but I had to drive 9 hours in a single day to do it. And I did it.
Bro, again, it's
what do those things?
It's what do you, in the trenches, what do you, there's nothing that you can say no to be honest.
Yeah.
You're not in that place, right? Other mentors will tell you that at some point, the best decisions you'll make are the decisions that you don't actually make, right? The decisions that you say no to.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. They've worked their way to a place where they can say that.
Yeah.
But in the early days,
there's
nothing that I don't do, right? If somebody told you today, right? Obviously, if somebody told you yo, somebody with 1 billion plus followers or 1 million plus followers tells you yo, Darsh, I'm actually in town, I got to record a pod. Right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? It doesn't matter what you have going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Everything's canceled, yo.
Everything's canceled, bro. Again, in what I do.
Tell me about something that happened with you similarly. Because I think you've had some crazy guests on your show, man.
And again, those are people that I understand the opportunity that I'm given when somebody is even remotely interested in doing it. Whether it costs me money, whether it costs me time, whether it costs me my energy, it's worth it, right? I've had people come in from I've had guests from the UK come in. Right? That tap into me, be yo, little homie, I'm in town for 4 days. Now again,
let's make it happen.
I have to make it happen. It doesn't matter that my studio like charges like a premium fee if it's less than 24 hours. What am I gonna do? Miss that interview?
Yeah, no.
Because next time you come around, you're not hitting me.
Yeah, facts. You have one chance to make that to make it happen. Really.
That's the part that people don't realize, right? It's like, yo, like I've had to do that where it's like, yo, like there's guests that will hit me up and be like, yo, I'm in town on like a Friday night. This is the only 2 hours that I have available. Yo, I could have like real plans.
Yeah, actually though.
I could have my roommate's birthday party. I could have my sister's graduation.
Parents' anniversary, whatever.
Parents' anniversary.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That opportunity, I'm not getting again.
Yeah.
Right? Like I might get a different opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you think that one's aligned with you.
Yeah, you have to do it.
You have to reach it, right?
So let's talk about the fun stuff now, because I think this is what gets us motivated, what keeps us going, and I think people should know that we know people right when we started, right? We knew a couple of cool people, but the actual compounding effect of guest to next guest to next guest to next guest, your life, the most fun part about this entire thing is the people that we met. I think we both agree with like
absolutely
the relationships, the mentorship, the people, just the conversations itself. Like that is what makes podcasting like the coolest fucking thing in the world.
Coolest fucking thing ever.
And I look at your show because again, you were one of my early inspirations. You're a couple years older than me. You started a little bit earlier than me too, and it's like you have interviewed some of the most unique and really popping people that are kind of in the space right now on social media, in terms of music, in terms of all these kind of things. So I want to know the sauce. How do you book these guests? How do you actually find people to want to come on your show? Because I think people who are watching at home are like, even me and myself, bro. Like, I want to know, how do I get these kind of like people to come on me? Like, what are you doing with that?
I think what we talk about off mic and we've talked about behind closed doors, right, is that when the product is good, and the product is not just your podcast, the product is also you, the individual. When the product is good, like people will come. When we first started, like we were putting out maybe like 50 outbound DMs, like a week. Right? Just 50 outbound DMs, like clockwork, like anybody and everybody. Right? It's like, yo, DM. Like if you've named somebody who's in the space that I'm in, we've probably DM'd them.
For sure.
But what I'm sure you've realized and what I've realized is that when the product is good and people have good experiences, just like in any type of sales role or any type of business,
hospitality, anything,
people will then come to you.
Right?
Most of the most fire opportunities that I've gotten are not from outbound outreaches. It's from somebody somewhere saying my name in a room, saying like, yo, you got to go tap in with homie. Like I've had OGs that have tapped me in with people that I'm like, damn, you said my name? Right? Like you said,
why?
Like why? Like why? Right?
Yeah.
Like, and again, like there's a level of gratitude there. And then there's also a level of like, okay, that is my validation. Like when numbers,
that's what gives you confidence.
When numbers aren't the one that are validating it, you have to ask yourself, if I have 10 listeners, who are those 10 listeners? Let's say I have 10 listeners. My 10 listeners are people I respect. My 10 listeners are people that I admire. My 10 listeners are also people that are absolute titans in their space.
No, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you have to realize also 10 people, 1,000 people, however many people it is. It's, again, we keep going back to this numbers concept, but numbers is what drives growth and objectively like how much you can be successful. But even you think about, people think, 1,000 is not a lot. Bro, imagine 1,000 people in a room watching your show or watching one of your clips or watching one of it. It's like, that is so many people, right? Like that's like,
so many people, and it's like, who are those people, right?
Yeah, you don't even know idea who those people can even be.
Again, imagine somebody like you mentioned Jay Shetty.
Yeah.
Imagine Jay Shetty privately today texted you and be like, yo, Darsh, you have an incredible product. Right? Like you gotta keep going.
Jay Shetty text me, bro.
Yo. If Jay Shetty texted you that today, it doesn't matter what your number is 5 months from now, 6 months from now. It doesn't matter what your parents are saying. It doesn't matter what your audience is saying. Yo, Jay Shetty, who is somebody who has built a product,
seriously,
is saying, yo, you have something. And honestly, like I'm saying it in Jay Shetty, but that's how I truly like feel. Like when I say,
tell me about that when that's happened for you, then.
Yo, like I have such like, I don't even.
Tell me your craziest positive moment of this entire experience for you so far. Like, because for me, there are so many more hard moments than there are good moments. I think you probably can agree with that. Like,
yes.
That exists way more. But those little moments where you feel like you just won are the moments that keep you going, that make you feel so fucking alive. What was that moment? Like, what was the number one moment for you doing this?
This year, I got the opportunity. Shout out to like Kahani and Kunal, everybody at Indo Warehouse. Like I had a moment where I was kind of sauced too. So I had this crazy moment where I was on stage at Brooklyn Mirage, looking at a sold out crowd, full access, all of that. Like, which is the cool part. Yeah. But I'm looking around and moving around there, and I'm like, damn, in this space, like I'm not just like some outsider. Like I know people here. Yeah. Like I know people here. I have real relationships with people here. Like, yo, like founder of Rock Nation, Tata Smith, right? Wow. One of like Jay-Z's like best friend. Yeah. I recognize him because again, like he's like the only black dude in this crowd of brown people. Yeah. And I have to like tell my team, I'm like, yo, y'all don't even know who that is. Yeah. Like, that right there is Tata Smith. Yeah. Right? Like this man founded one of the most influential things in hip hop. Like that is hip hop royalty. And for somebody who like grew up like just like as a fan of hip hop, I'm sure, right? Yeah. I'm just like, y'all don't even realize what that means. And the fact I will never be able to take this away from myself is that I got to sit and have a like 15-minute conversation with somebody that since I was like maybe like 7 years old, I looked at as hip hop royalty. Yeah. Right? Like it's like, yo, how am I here? Like sometimes you have to like, you know, when you're in the trenches, you can't poke your head out and look back and be like, yo, where am I? Yeah. But sometimes you have those moments where you're like, what is my life? Yeah. Because if you told me at 16 that this is what I'd be doing, at the time, this is what I wanted. Yeah. Nice. I would be like stoked. Yeah. But it's like, yo, the opportunity to actually do it is the most surreal feeling, right? Like those are the moments that I see God. Yeah. Like when I think about like, yo, when I see like God or when I see the universe at play, there's moments like that where it's like, holy shit. Like I think it's crazy that I'm even able to like text like certain people. Yeah. Like, yo, shout out to like Ani and like Ion and everybody at Kolkata Chai. Like these guys are doing things with like Hassan Minaj on Bloomberg, right? And that's somebody that like, yo, I could hit tomorrow and be like, yo, I need this favor. And it's like, that's not in a, it's like, yo, like,
not in a braggadocious way.
Not even a braggadocious way. It's like, damn, the fact that relationship even exists because of this.
Yeah, because of your brain, baby, because of what you created. Like literally, it's all from here, and just you putting out your energy into something that you're passionate about. It's resulting in these things happening.
What's your moment,
dude? That's a great question. There's a couple. I'm trying to think of like the number one moment I've had. I feel like there's so many different ways. I feel like for me. Number one moment. That's a good question, bro.
What's your moment that you're like, yo, like I got something here?
That I got something? I would say my moment when I got something was when I would say I was at 154 subscribers for 9 months or 10 months. And then in 1 month I gained 1,500. Fire. And I was like, what the fuck's happening? And I posted, and I think the second I started posting, I posted an episode, and I got a lot of random people messaging me like, yo, this is so cool. Like, I would love to edit your videos. I would love to be a part of your journey. I don't know what you're doing. And I would get all these DMs. We were featured in random newsletters, and it was like, and it's all happened within like 2 weeks. And and I'll be real too, like, this is like so fucking hard. Like, my first 9 months, imagine like spending, this probably all cost like $20,000, $30,000. And I've gotten not a penny from anything I've been creating, except for like freelance work that I've done for other people. But like from the actual podcast and the product itself, I made literally no dollars. So I'm spending time, so much I'm investing and grinding in it. Whereas also, you know, in this space, like our culture, it's like, everyone's like, yo, I had a $90,000 job in Chicago, and I left that life to do this where I'm making negative money, bro. So to have a moment where it was like, again, that validation from people, and it was like people saying, I want to work for you for free. People saying, oh my God, like I love what you're doing. This like really, like one comment was like, I posted a video of me talking about how I quit my job to do this. And one comment was just saying how, you know, I see myself in you. I live in an Indian family myself, and I know how hard it is. You feel like you're like not free, even though you're told you are. And you being able to do that made me feel that. I was like, damn, bro, like that shit was cool. Like, I think these moments, I wouldn't say there's one moment, but it was that 2 week span where I finally saw growth. And people are coming to me with things. Because I'm sure you know, when you first started, when you were posting clips and shit, people don't even comment. People don't even like, even your best friends won't like your videos. But that's not their fault. That's just the nature of human interaction. And it's like when you start seeing like actual random people like finding value, something again that came from a brain baby, it's like, yo, that was like so cool. I think even this past Friday I felt it. This past Thursday when I went to Penn State, it was the biggest interview I've ever done, and I was like, I had a moment where I was like, I just drove 9 hours. I did an interview with someone who has this many people, this many followers, and I like feel like it's actually me on a mission. Like I'm actually on a journey here, right? Like that was a crazy moment because I'm like, wow, like this is kind of fucking crazy. I went from doing this shit when it was ass to now doing it where I actually think it's good, and people think it's good. Like big people think it's good. And I was like, damn, that was pretty dope.
I think that's because you mentioned it, and because we're talking about like what are the positives of this media or what is the positives of this art form.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned is like a very real one, right? Because you said you haven't gotten any revenue from this podcast.
Yeah.
But the reframing of that is that the other work that you've gotten or the other opportunities you've gotten are because of
the podcast.
This podcast,
it's
right?
True.
Like I always have to remind myself, I'm like, damn, certain things like, because again, like I meet with like my lawyers and my accountants and they're like, what is this business?
Yeah.
And I had to stop saying that it was a podcast because I'm like, damn, most of my revenue does not come from the podcast.
Yeah, that's facts.
But how do I explain to them that if I don't do this podcast,
it all goes away.
All these other opportunities that I'm getting, random deal flow, right? Random private equity deals, random like, yo, come support and promote this for us, right?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, come do ad work for here, or hey, film this doc for us, right?
Yeah.
How do I explain to them that like, yo, unless I do this,
that's not coming in.
those things aren't coming in anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because like what this allows, right, is the ability to create other revenue streams that are not tied to it, but are correlated to it.
So talk about that. Like how have you, I know you kind of alluded to it. So for you, you've created now, and now you have things coming into you on the monetary side, whether it's sponsorships, whether it's private equity offers. Like talk about the benefits of, okay, you've done this in long enough of a time. You've built, like you are, I think the main brown, like South Asian podcast. Like that's the only one that I see that's like at least.
You know, people say that, but like it's crazy. Like people say that because like I'll get OGs being like, "Yo, like," because I talk like
I don't know it.
I talk like a big game on my pod, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, like maybe because I'm in the space, I consistently like am studying everybody.
Yeah.
Like I look at all my peers and I study, right?
Yeah.
So because sometimes my OGs will be like, "Yo, like when you talk your cash shit, like." Who do you think that you're competing against, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, we don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see any of it.
And it's like, again, right? Like, I think that because I'm in the space, I study. But
it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing.
To that point, I think the opportunities end up being exactly what we were talking about before, is the people.
Yeah.
Right? Is those like sometimes like knowing the right, and I'm sure you know this based off of every conversation that you've had.
Yeah.
Knowing the right person to pull certain levers is the game.
That's facts.
Right? Like
that's how you move forward.
Very, very small, like just an example.
Yeah, give me one.
Just an example. I just noticed that one of our followers, we put out these like monthly gifts, right?
Yeah.
GIFs. We put out these monthly gifts. GIFs. We put out these monthly gifts that we take like podcast clips and we turn them into gifts.
Yeah.
And, I have like, my team that's like working on that and, they're running into issues. I noticed that one of our followers on the pod is a director at Giphy. South Asian woman, right?
Yeah.
Director at Giphy. I just like, oh, she follows the pod and we're running into issues at Giphy. I reach out to her. I'm like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I know you follow the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like we're having such and such issues. She, the next day, gives us creator access that like we couldn't have gotten.
Yeah.
Like the people that have creator access at like these companies, it's like your Coca-Colas. It's like people who are spending a decent amount of money with these companies.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
But again, because of knowing the right person, the next day my intern is like, yo, I have all the professional like dashboards. And I'm like,
there you go.
There you go, right? And it's like certain things like that are consistently available if you are tapping into a true community, right? Like I'm sure you've realized this too, right? Where it's like you're not just a podcast host, right?
Yeah.
You are a community leader.
Yeah.
Right? You are a leader of the community that you are building.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Are you a participant in other communities? Yes. But you are also
creating my own.
You are the community leader for this community.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that comes with its own responsibilities that I don't think we talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not just I come up here and we do this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. We've been building a relationship
Yeah,
passively.
More than 3 months now, bro.
Passively for
man.
a few months.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hit you, you hit me, you've
man.
given me game, right?
Yeah.
And it's like those relationship things, like that's another part of the job.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
Because you don't know. And again, it's like that's, I think people misconstrue that. Sometimes people look at that as transactional. If you start off with a transaction, then yes, it's transactional.
Yeah.
But if me and you have a real relationship and you're like,
exactly.
yo, Aram, come on and do this, that's not transactional. You've given me real game. Yeah. Right? Of course we're going to do this podcast, right?
Yeah, and it's also, too, even like no one owes anyone anything ever. So it's like, I'm just here to, like, I think this is a good idea. Like, let me help. Like, I like to be, I want to make friends. And every journey is boring alone, first of all. So why would I want to do things alone anyway? And I think the whole thing about this is there's two ways to really find motivators, like reasons to keep going. If people's your thing, this is like the perfect thing only because if you can just do right by the person you're interacting with all the time, then good things will happen. That person will, again, as you said, talk about you in other rooms, right? Like the open doors that have never been opened. The podcast guests I've had, I had this whole chain of, I had Herschel on. That's how I met you. That's literally how I met you.
Yeah.
I had Herschel on. Someone I know, AT, he knew Herschel. He would reach out to me. Then he connected me with someone, and then I interviewed that guy I had on Thursday. Purely because everyone who comes here and I just talk to, not even like, again, not in a cocky way, but I just like to be a good person. Even if these cameras weren't here,
bro, I would say I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm like an idiot.
Yeah, but
right?
you're a good guy.
Like, that's all. Like, I always say, like, yo, like, I am an idiot. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm an idiot. I don't even think I'm that great of a host yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm constantly, I'm my biggest critic, right?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I'm constantly trying to improve on that, right? But I'm an idiot. I'm not a great podcast host. So, like, what is it?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And it comes down to just that.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I try to put out as much good energy into my environment as possible without the entitlement of anything back, but God-giving, I've gotten it back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's like, again, I don't know if that's a law of the universe.
It's that law, bro, so what goes around comes around, man. And it's like, I think you can always sniff out people that are transactional, and then you end up like not even fucking with them really. So then what happens? And you'll never work with them, right? And it goes, and then next thing you know, right? You're not. Well, let's say I know a photographer, right? Yeah. And let's say I work with him one time, and I find out he's an asshole, and you need a photographer, and I know someone who I like, but I don't know him as some other guy. I'm never gonna tell you about the asshole because it looks bad on me too. So naturally, what being a good person allows you to do is now you're the cool guy that everyone wants to connect someone with them, right?
Honestly, that's how business is done.
Yeah.
Like, business is, like, again, after a certain point, the product and services differentiators at a certain level, there's not that much of a difference. Yeah. So then what is it? It's pure brand. When I talk about brand, obviously we're talking about business, but when I talk about reputation, I'm talking about a person, right? So again, if let's just say, like, yo, mine and yours, our intros are different. Yeah. Sorry, our intros are the same. Yeah. Our podcast is the same. We're interviewing the same guests, which is what is happening in the podcast space as a whole. Yeah, yeah. So then what is the differentiator, right? It's, do people fuck with the person?
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because, again, a lot of these photographers, videographers, putting out, again, some are full aliens and putting out, like, insane bodies of work. Yeah. Sure. But for the field, most of y'all work is the same. Yeah. Right? Some people are good enough where they can be assholes.
Yeah, yeah.
But the majority of people are not good enough where they can be assholes.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Right? Yeah. So then you have to ask yourself, it's like, okay, like, if I'm just at the same playing field, what is my differentiator? Sometimes the differentiator is,
it has to be you. It has.
I'm a good person.
Yeah, it has to be that.
I'm a good person, right? Yeah. Like, I think about that, like, when I think about the integrity of, like, the product, right? There's certain things that I'm sure you even realize in the media game that we could do to run up numbers. Yeah. Right? Run up. I know exactly. Yo, if I came up here, like, I thought about it. I was like, yo, I was like, yo, not my fault. I was like, yo, like, there's certain things that I could say just to be like,
clip farm,
right?
Yeah.
That is like the meta in a sense.
Yeah.
But again, clip farming, when it's inauthentic, is a short-term game. Yeah. Because you could do that for a little bit.
I don't want to do that.
You again, right? Like, you see that. Like, you see people who have gained virality and then they completely fall off because there's nothing underneath.
Substance. It's nothing there.
I think one of the coolest rebrands we're seeing right now is, you remember Rebecca Black?
Yeah. What
the girl who sings Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rebecca Black obviously has a viral song Friday.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything about her afterwards?
No.
But Rebecca Black is now a DJ who is building out a real career.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's like, okay, when you went viral and got these numbers because of a song that whatever,
Yeah.
That didn't do anything for you long term. It did something for you for like a year or two.
Yeah.
But then you had to go back and rebuild.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas people who take the slow build up, and they've built
something. It has something more of substance there. It lasts longer.
Right? There's real structure to this.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we look at podcasting, Joe Budden, right? Or Joe Rogan, whoever you want to look at, right? Both have built real audiences that it doesn't matter how the climate looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's going on in the business, right? Like Rogan lost the Spotify deal, got the Spotify deal, does not matter.
Doesn't matter.
Joe Budden lost the Spotify deal. You know what he did? Oh, I have a real audience. Everybody Patreon, $10 a month.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Yeah.
His Patreon numbers would scare me and you, right? In terms of like the amount of revenue that he does.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why? Because I have a real audience that I've built for 15 years straight.
Yeah.
Right?
Seriously.
Wherever I go,
true.
whatever I do,
They're going to come.
Call her daddy.
Yeah, same thing.
Call her daddy, right? She just moved from Spotify to Sirius.
Yeah.
Why does Sirius think that she's worth 100 M's? Because she has a real audience.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter that they're not on Spotify. They're gonna go to Sirius to go listen to her.
They're gonna go wherever it is.
Yeah.
So then, how are you trying to create that for yourself right now? What is your angle to building your brand? How do you kind of like? I think everyone does it differently, right? So what actions have you taken to like build your what is your strategy of this whole podcast, this whole business plan you have in your mind that like for someone who wants to start out, they can be, I want to be like Ihram. How the fuck did he do it? How is he even looking at this whole thing?
I think that if you asked me a year ago, it would be, let's just get the biggest guess.
Yeah.
If you asked me today, it would be, let me figure out the best process.
Okay.
Right? Like I am fully obsessed with my product. I'm fully obsessed with my culture. I'm fully obsessed to the art form. So
I could tell that about you. You're very into the art side of it. Like it comes across.
Yeah, I think there's for me, again, some people and people do podcasting for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
I truly look at this as there's going to be some interviews in my mind. I'm talking about not even my interviews, but there's certain interviews that I've heard that I believe belong in a museum because of how well the audio file is, how well the actual interview is.
Yeah.
That they become cultural reference points in a specific culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, and I study hip hop, right? So when Dame Dash came on the Breakfast Club, that is an iconic hip hop moment, right?
Yeah.
Because, and that's, Breakfast Club is the media that happened,
Yeah.
right? So when I think about my business plan, I think it's full obsession in the product, right? It's full obsession in the product. It's full obsession in what I'm building.
So what are different things within that, within product? What does that look like?
So product is honestly all the things that you're mentioning, you're reverse engineering, right?
Yeah.
How do I get better every single weekday, right? As a host, as a video editor, as a personality, right?
Yeah.
Even my appearance. We talked about that before, right?
Yeah.
If I come in, again, if building a brand, you have to have a certain bar. If I come in sweats,
PJs and shit
every week, right?
Yeah.
What is that saying about my product?
Yeah.
Right? Because even though we keep talking about even though we don't have the numbers right now, there's certain business dealings that I've done. I've gotten a bigger bag for content creation than some content creators that have been in the space for
and have tens of thousands of followers and whatever.
I've negotiated real contracts that are more than anybody in my field has made in a month in month 4.
Yeah.
And that's not because of numbers. That's because when people look at the product, they're like, oh, there's something there. Even if the numbers aren't there, there's something here.
Yeah, they're buying into potential almost just as much as they are the actual current, more than the current value itself.
Exactly, right? Because again, I think about the deals that I've negotiated in the year that I've been operating, and I'm like, damn, some of these deals number-wise would not make sense.
Yeah.
Do not make sense. Straight up. I have no problem saying that. 'Cause, my business partners all know. I'm very open and transparent about what this is.
Yeah.
It's based off of numbers, if you're looking at ROI on clicks, does not make sense.
Yeah.
But what does make sense and what they've invested in is me. They know that, if I do business with Ihram right now, when he's at XYZ numbers, but the product is good, but I know that in a year from now,
he's up here.
based off of what you were talking about before, the relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
And they can see, I mean, I think anyone, like, in a weird way, we always tell people not to judge. I think we humans by nature are always making like predictions, assumptions, and creations in their mind over things that happen. Right? That's why people always talk about first impressions, right? You can watch, if you go on YouTube right now, the reason why we want to make the video as best as it can be is because you get one first impression, and then I can get it, like right now, I'm meeting you for the first time in person right now, right? If I thought you were a weirdo or an asshole, I could very easily phase out our relationship, whatever it is, right? If I watch a video on YouTube and I do not like the content, I'll never come back to this channel probably to ever watch it. So I think when it comes down to these things, right, people can see what you are, what this is, and they make mental assumptions in their brain, like from one experience or a couple. This is something that I want to be a part of this. Like that's what it is.
It's human psychology, right? At the end of the day, like think about why in business IPOs are so important, right? Realistically, IPOs they matter, but they don't really matter. But the reason that they matter is because if initially the stock tanks, like you might hit like a downward spiral because of it. Now, as a company and as a business, can you float it back up? Yes, but there's a challenge to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like again, if somebody comes to your page and views not your best interview, you may not get another interview from that person.
Yeah.
Like it's more difficult to get another interview. Like because they're gonna be like, you know what? I already gave him 1 hour of my day and it wasn't that. Yeah. So like I don't want to go back unless you do something to get back on their radar.
Of course.
Right? Like I think that's like the tough part about operating a business and operating, especially what we do, is that as we're figuring it out, there's a lot of eyes that got on me early.
Now, when it wasn't good.
When it wasn't good.
Yeah, me too.
Right? That I may not get back.
Yeah. Like my first podcast had 490 views. It's like my fourth or fifth most. Cause I think people are just curious. What the fuck's he doing? And then I thought I was heat when I dropped it. And then I look at it now like, oh my God, that means like so many of those people probably watched this shit and was like, this is hot ass. I'm not coming back to watch anything else.
Yeah, you ever see that? I need to post that shit all the time where there's like a graph of like, yo, when you start, you just think like, yo, I'm heat. I know everything. I got to figure it out, right? Yeah. That's what, again, I thought. I was like, yo, I'm such an innovator in this space. I'm the first one here. I'm heat.
Yeah.
And then, a couple months, that initial heat died down. And then what do you have? You have a plateau. And then, if you're quick, like that's the thing. Like people don't realize like with what speed you can move in, right? Because when you identify that plateau, you can move quickly. And be like, yo, what is the next thing? Yeah. That's like again, like back to like what my mindset is currently. It's like anytime I see like a tro, like I'm not willing to just be like, oh, this was a miss. Right? I gotta now figure out why that was a miss, right? Yeah. Because that's where you lose a lot of people, right? Initial heat, plateau, they'll either quit or they'll continue to do it just like that because they're like, oh, the initial heat worked. Yeah. The initial heat is over. Yeah. Now what?
Yep.
And it's like now what is...
And there's always that dip. That dip, unless you're a unicorn, that dip is coming at some point.
Yeah, right? Like some people like, yo, again, for example, like the Haktua girl gets like gets a viral moment, then gets the podcast. And then...
But an average person who, let's say they have 1,000 Instagram followers, they went to a random college, random high school, their first thing will get people, because people are curious. Yeah. What's he doing? But at episode 7 or 8, if you're not... it's going to have I had an episode that had 99 views after 3 months. Mm-hmm. So that's going to, and the first one had 450, right? So it's going to happen.
And you have to ask yourself, and remind yourself that, that's not a indication of you're doing worse than you were when you originally started, right?
Yeah, it's not.
You have to objectively, you have to separate out those two, right? Because there is a balance of, looking at the numbers and being like, can I improve? Like, we were talking about, view time. Yep. Right? And you were able to identify something that would improve your view time.
Yes.
Right? So that's a metric.
Let's talk about that too. Let's talk about optimizing our actual product. That's what a lot of people here are trying to watch and understand is how do we create a good podcast? That is what I think I want to talk about with you. So I think for me, I'll actually go first because in my mind, I think I lean more. I think audio is kind of easy to make it. You just gotta record that shit and put it out, right? Yeah. Also, the ceiling for audio is lower. So I don't focus on audio as much. I focus on video element, right? So for me, I think if you're creating a video podcast, what are the most important things? The first thing is getting someone to actually click on it. That's the number one most important thing. So for me, that's thumbnail. That's the first few seconds with the intro. I need someone with the title. I need someone to click this. And I learned this only because I studied so much of YouTube videos on how to make a good podcast, how to make good videos. Because a good podcast is not just a good podcast. It has to be a good video. And that's something that I did not know in the beginning. I just interviewed it, and I just threw it up. And that shit's not going to work. Because people are going to get bored after, what am I even here for? What am I even doing? So the number one thing that people have to realize when it comes to podcasting is how can I make this the best video? What I recommend is making like a component of like a checklist. Okay, it's like thumbnail, title, intro, conversation, guest. Like you have to every single thing you can control should be listed out, and your goal as a person should be like, you don't have to make it like perfect, but how can I make this as good as I can possibly feel like of myself putting in? Do I feel confident in all of these things? If you can do those things, when you put out, you're giving yourself the best chance to succeed, because the only way you actually grow, for example, if you go to the gym every single day and you're doing 5-pound weights, you're never going to be fucking big, never. But if you're lifting to max every single time you go, now after a year, you're actually going to be big because you put yourself to the best you could possibly do in those checklist things. That's how I look at it personally. What do you think?
No, absolutely. Like you ever hear, like Mr. Beast talks about it all the time, where he's like, yo, if you took away all my YouTube channels tomorrow,
you do that shit.
Right? Yeah. He's like, I could run that bitch up back like
3
in a
months.
month.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? And there's like a reason also available out, but it's like leaked out. Somebody sent it to me, but Mr. Beast has this like manual for like his first like 10 employees that he gave out, right? Yeah. And essentially he documents the process of how I built this.
Send
right?
me that, bro.
Huh? I'll send it to you after. It's in my phone right now. Yeah. But that's somebody who, because of spending hours and hours and days studying YouTube, has essentially cracked the code. Like that dude is an alien, right?
He is,
like when you think
billion, he offered, I think Disney offered him over $1 billion for his whole thing.
Yeah, right. And again, like it's tough because he is the person, right? And you know, you have some level of value to your company being the person. But I think like if you study that, right? Again, because it is all those things that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
What kind of pod cover gets somebody to click in? What thumbnail gets somebody to click in? What intro, you just added intros and that's a game that you put me onto. Yeah. What intro gets them to at least sit for 5 minutes? Yeah.
That's all you need. Because if someone, it's a fact I saw, it's if someone watches past the first 2.5 minutes of a long form video, there's a 50% chance they make it to like 20 minutes. And at that point, if you make it to 20 minutes, there's almost another 50% to make to the entire 45 minutes, right? So in my brain, I'm just going to talk about what's worked for me, and I would love to hear what works for you too from your best videos. Is I just had my best video happen, and all my last 3 or 4 podcasts have all been my top most viewed podcasts. And what I realized is I have to optimize for, if I was a viewer myself, what would that work? And then I use the kind of the case studies that people would be posting about. So what those things are is, for thumbnails, I decide my title before kind of before the conversation even happens. Like, what do I want? A couple ideas I have, right? Then I watch the video. Then I see, okay, this should be the title. Then I'll go to for my thumbnail. I will look up my exact title and see what the most viewed videos are of my title. So like, let's say the video I posted today was, I think it's the therapists. It's a therapist talking about mental health. So I look up therapists talking about mental health. The most viewed video about that, I made my niche, like it's gonna be me in that conversation, but put in to that exact thumbnail style, but even about 1% better, 1% different. Now I know the thumbnail clicks, this title goes. So now they're gonna click. I know that people are gonna click on it now. Now I have 1.5 minutes or 1 minute or 2 minutes to make them committed to this video, right? So now someone now knows they're here. The first thing you have to do is make them commit. Like, reassure them that they clicked on the right video. So now they saw the thumbnail, saw the title. The first 5 to 10 seconds should confirm that they're in the right place. Then you have to build intrigue, whether that's credibility, whether that is showing cool clips of like for example, this podcast, right? It's like, you saw the one I just showed you. I showed him saying a little bit of controversial things or talking about really deep personal stories, because now people are getting invested in him and who he is, and they want to hear more about it, right? Now, once you have people past the first 1.5 minutes, now it's, okay, is the video just good now? Like, is there something people want to stay and watch for? That's what you have to do. I think if you do those things, that's what I'm just starting to learn now. It took me from 150 subs to 1.6 in 20 days, purely off of these things. So I think that's like how I did it, and I'm learning how to do it right now.
I think that's like, it's interesting because now, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about like, that's like the part of the game that I need to get better at as like a pod owner. Because I think that my avenue for growth has been very different than that.
Tell me about it.
So my avenue for growth, again, like I come from like true like hip hop journalism. I come from like moments,
Okay.
Right? Like I got a culture and I got moments that I gotta like my biggest numbers are when I capitalize on a moment.
Like a current event.
Almost like a current event, but also like, because again, like I always tell people like, yo, my podcasts are not booked based off of who I want to talk to, but rather timing. Right? There's certain people that are definitely going to get on the pod, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the right time.
Okay.
Right? Because I think about like our biggest numbers, like when the Diljit drama was happening with like the dancers, right? That number, kind of like what you're saying, right? It's like when you search something, you're tying your name to somebody else or something else, right?
Yep.
Through a YouTube thumbnail, through a YouTube title, right? Whether even inside the algorithm itself, you're tying to it. Our best numbers came from that Diljit video. Why? It's timely. It's a moment. It didn't even matter who my guests were, honestly.
Yeah. People wanted to see people talk about this thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So my approach to podcasting is that, right? The analysis of like what inside the human psyche is important today.
Okay, I see.
Right?
Okay.
So certain things like again, like in podcasting, there's evergreen content. Right? Which it's out there, it's available.
No, that's why this is cool because I think there's different kinds of podcasts. That's the whole. That's what we're getting at right now.
Yeah, right. Like there, and you have to know, right? Like for example, like Diary of a CEO, yours, right?
Yeah.
Very evergreen content. Yeah. Right. It's stuff that's going to be valuable today is going to be valuable a year from now.
Yeah.
Right. That's like the type of content that you're producing.
It's more. It's educational. So it's long lasting. Yeah.
Mine is a mix, I would say, right? Some of it is storytelling and like, who are you? Because I'm trying to build out characters.
Yeah.
Right. But then the other part of it is I'm also trying to create out a story.
Yep.
Like a long-term story. Like when I look at the podcast, like my favorite thing about it is when I have a guest and then I have a guest return. Because now I've introduced like real Vince McMahon shit. Yeah. I've introduced a character and now I can build the storyline, right? You follow wrestling at all?
Yeah.
Think about like, again, like all of these, like we know as fans that like wrestling is like fake or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's the story, right? It's the fact that it's like The Undertaker who has a 20-0 WrestleMania streak going up against this person.
Yeah. Someone's finally coming back after all these years.
Yeah, somebody's coming back after these years, right? Or it's like, it's just long-term storytelling, right? Yeah. And for me, that's what my podcast, I believe, is to our culture, right?
Yeah.
It's long-form storytelling, right? And our best numbers are when we tell that story well and when that story is intriguing, right? And that, again, I'm an observer.
Yeah.
I have to observe my culture, but the next step in that is also I am the platform that covers and draws that narrative.
It's true, yeah, and you are getting a lot of, I think, views from people interested in these events. I mean, clearly your short form content, especially, is popping. Like, for me, I think I have long form videos really understood now because I've been studying for so long. But the short form game is a little bit harder because again, it's not current. So it's not hitting the algorithm the same way your videos are hitting the algorithm, right? So talk about your experience now with short form content. How, because I didn't even know, like I just got TikTok to post all my stuff there just now, but on Instagram too, you have a lot of followers. You've gotten 300,000 view videos, 400,000 view videos. You have some of the biggest like Instagram influencers. I don't know her too well, but I saw you did one with her because she's one of your pin, like Ashna Gray. I would just see her when I'm scrolling through things, and now she's this big influencer model in New York, and it's like I feel like you are capturing moments well, and it hits the algorithm really well, so it leads to your growth. That's from an outside perspective. What has that been like for you in terms of your experience growing through short form content?
Yeah, I think that short form content offers a very unique opportunity, but a different opportunity than long form, right?
Yeah.
Like I look at it as like long form is truly for me.
Yeah.
Like that's my art form. Like that's like, yo, you're getting a whole, like I hope somebody listens to this whole conversation.
Facts, I agree, man.
But
someone will, bro. I'm telling you.
Somebody will.
It's our job to market it too, bro.
Of course,
bro.
right?
They will.
But the reality is that most people will view that short form. So for me, it's providing as much value and storytelling in that short form content
as possible.
Right? I think that's why like your intros for your videos are beautifully done.
Thank you.
Right? I think your intros, I think Rajid, who runs Dost, right? Like he like did the initial story on Hanuman Kind and Big Dogs, right?
Yeah.
He in a minute 30, whatever his like length time is able to tell such a good story about an artist that it doesn't even matter what else is behind it, right? It's like, yo, I got what I needed to from this piece of art dash content right now.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, like the short form content, and you know, like we're always iterating on that, is how can I tell a story through this singular clip? And then the next step, which we're currently taking, or I'm trying to take, is how do I tell the best story through a series of clips?
Okay. So like a part 1, part 2 kind of thing, or more of like what do you mean?
So for example, like I took, like originally the goal was to essentially get as many clips to go, like just a clip to pop.
Yeah.
But then that's a standalone clip, right? Like that doesn't get somebody intrigued in the longer form thing, because you want to increase your viewer retention time. Marginally every single time. So the goal now is like, yo, if let's say like we talked about let's say we just talked about like whatever we talked about, right? I want to make sure that that story and that narrative, even if somebody doesn't watch the long form, is still getting the context of that conversation.
Yes.
Right? So for me now, it's like, how do I build that thread of storytelling? Right? It's like, how do I thread it all together where it's like, hey, this is what we talked about and this is going to be a viral clip. But this is also what we talked about in relation to that. And then this is what we talked about in relation to that. Because
it creates a chain.
Yeah, because we're no longer, me and you are no longer in the business of like one-term virality clips. Like that don't do shit for us. I'm sure, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I've had clips that, have done 300,000. But those clips have also only gotten me like 10 followers. On the flip side, I have clips that have done 30,000, but because
it's real, it's more like
real
substance.
And I'm creating a true audience ship, that 30,000 might garner me like 150 followers.
Facts.
Right? So I think for me now, in terms of short form, it's really building out that storyline. So like, because again, my audience on Instagram is tapped in. Like that's where, I think that's where like the discrepancy in my mind is, right? Is because we're moving slower on YouTube. I sometimes forget that like, yo, on Instagram, I'm doing like, for the amount of followers, I'm not saying it's a lot, because some people might hear this and be like, oh, I have more. But for the amount of followers we have way more impressions than we should.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm looking at it like, dude, you have 3,000 followers on this podcast, and you guys are getting a lot of freaking engagement all the time.
Bro, think about it. We're doing, at some point at our peak, like maybe 2 months ago. I'm doing 500,000 plus concurrently. Concurrently is not the right. 500,000 consecutively. And I only have like 3,000 followers.
That's what I'm saying. So it's clearly like it's connecting. So I guess my question is, when you're doing all these short form posts on TikTok or Instagram, is there like a strategy of this many times a week, this long of a clip? Do I want X, Y? Because for the person watching at home, I think it's important where it's like, all right, I'm now doing a podcast. Like, let's say I'm there. I don't know. Let's say it's a Mexican themed, Latin American themed podcast, right? And they're like, I want to be the Ihram of the chai version of that with our thing, right? What's the actual strategy that I can follow to kind of create that?
Yeah, no, that's honestly such a good question, because when I started,
you're killing it, bro. I don't mean to glaze, bro, but like I have to ask for like the value, man.
When I started, I think because again, I'm such like a fan of the art form. I wanted to give you guys these like real masterful 30-second to a minute clips where my guest just cooks. But here's the thing. If I put out a minute clip and people only listen to the first 5 seconds, who gives a fuck?
Facts.
Right? Like you didn't really get the value that I tried to provide. So now I think the balance is, and we talked about it before, right? That viewer retention time is so important. So like my new strategy is that, yo, I'm going to try to give you all the food. But I also got to give y'all the treat a little bit.
You got to give the sugar before you give them the vegetables.
Exactly, right? So like now it's like, yo, even if for me to get you to listen to the game and the gem, I got to make sure that first 5 seconds, you get what you get that mental dopamine stimulation that you really need from it, right? So now it's like, yo, if I know, because before we would do such minimal cutting because I wanted to maintain the integrity of the conversation, right? Like if you said something for 5 minutes straight, I'm not taking up. But now it's like, yo, if you said the most impactful thing in the last 30 seconds of this 5-minute conversation, I'm gonna make sure that goes first. So then you get all of the other game.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are conduits to information, right? And to be an effective conduit to that information means that people are actually listening.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Like you can give all the game in the world, right? We could have this could be the greatest podcast ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like this conversation.
Yeah.
But
it will be.
If only 3 people hear it because you couldn't get it to them,
then our mission was failed. Yeah.
Mission was failed, or
not in every way, but like,
or you can look at it as like, at least I provided value to those 3 people.
Yeah.
But for you to offer
we got bigger goals though, bro.
But for you to offer the most value, it's I want to get this to as many people because I believe that it's valuable.
Exactly. Like we are, for us, the reason the numbers, we don't care about the numbers for like a success thing. It's more of like for it to actually be important, to actually be a valuable thing, people have to watch it. Like that's why even one thing I've learned from this whole experience is I don't have guests on anymore that won't share the clips that I make and the video and like the video I make, because I had guests in the beginning who are really, really big. And I was trying to get big numbers, big guests. But if they weren't going to repost the things and I'm just preaching to the same audience that I've been preaching to, then it's kind of like, it's so valuable to them, yes. But the goal is like, I want this to be resonated to as many people as possible. It's actually valuable, right? So my whole thing now is like, I don't know how you do your guests, but for me, I only choose guests now that on the phone when I talk to them, they're super into like collaborating with my posts, sharing it on their story, making a LinkedIn post like, hey, I did an interview talking about how I founded my whatever. Because if you can get 2 people, I think this is true about anything in life. If you can get 2 people that are passionate about the same thing together to like do anything together, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. And that's what I think when you create valuable content like you're creating, I'm creating, that's the goal, is to make that you're 1 in 11 all the time and 111, things like that.
What you described, I want you to remember this as you continue, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously when we're starting off, right, like there is this idea that like these bigger numbered people, right, are doing me a favor.
Yeah.
But just remember that you are also providing real value to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like my like friends will tell me all the time, be like, yo, like listen, once upon a time you needed, not even once upon a time, like let me not say it like that. You not needed, but you wanted all these like guests with these like followings, right? Because it was good for your product.
Yeah.
Sure. But you also have to remember that you are providing a value to them, right? You're providing clips, studio, mic, conversation. You are providing a value.
Yeah.
Right? And as you continue and as you grow, there's going to be people that are going to take advantage of said value.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's at a very low cost to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Couple hours.
Couple hours, right? Like, because again, like I think about it, like there's some people especially in the space that I'm in New York, like you talked about, like, yo, there's people that try to extract from me right off the bat.
Yeah. Like, give me an example.
People, I think it's like so silly. Like you're never going to close me on the first go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Think about it. Me and you have a real relationship. If you really needed me to, right? If you were like, yo, Ihram, like I really need to do your podcast.
Yeah.
Yo, I would make it happen for you because there's a real relationship there, right? But like there's again like musicians, artists that are starting off that are just like immediately like, yo, like can I be on?
Yeah.
Because they even recognize that there's a value.
It's a platform.
It's a platform.
Yeah.
Right. There's a value. Like you get put on, and then the next week I might have somebody that has like a 3 million following.
Yeah.
And then you know what? When everybody clicks in, they'll see your face too.
Yeah. They're gonna. Yeah. Exactly.
There's a value in a platform.
Yes. Agreed,
right.
Agreed.
And I think holding that with the levity that it deserves is important, even as we start off, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
we're both in year 1, right?
Yeah. I've had a couple people ask me to be on the show, and it was a weird feeling saying no. It was a weird feeling because one of my friends asked me. He was like, "Yo, like," because I had one of my friends on before, because he's doing really cool things. So then my other friend, who's in a similar group kind of vibe, he was like, "Can I be on? If you ever need me, let me know." Love the guy, but I was like, no, like I can't, because it's not what I want to put out. But that's not a bad thing, but it's just like you have to stay true to like your mission that you're doing. Even like me and you, for example, right? We were texting before, and you were like, "Yo, like this is so cool. We should definitely do the pod." And I was like, in my mind, I could have been like, "Fuck no, why would I do that? What do you have?" But I was like, "There's actual value, right?" So you have to always associate like what is the best thing for you, and like I think being selfish is not a bad thing where you are now. It's not.
It's not even like selfish, because also it's not gonna add the value that you think it's gonna provide.
Yeah. If you don't believe in the content, then why would you ever even like
You don't believe in the content, and you may not also be in the place where this is going to add the most impact to you. Like, I've had people that have had real issues with me because they feel like I'm dubbing them being on the pod. And I'm like, yo, right now, based off of where I'm at and based off of where you're at, us doing a pod actually doesn't do benefit for me, nor does it really do a benefit for you.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to put something out and maybe like 2,000 people might like reshare it on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
I'd much rather build out my platform so then when you come down the line in a year and I have a platform to then give you a voice.
Yes.
Like, Rogan can put anybody on, and then that person is going
He's
to
a Drake of podcasts,
Yeah, exactly. Joe Rogan can have like a random physiologist from the University of Nebraska do his podcast, and then people will listen.
Yes.
We not there yet.
No way.
So then it's like, let me build the platform up.
Yeah.
So then I can give shine to the people. There's mad musicians that I fuck with.
That you would love to give them the opportunity. But
I would love to put eyes on them.
Yeah.
But we not there yet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let me build this so then when a year from now, when I feel like, yo, we have like a real audience, I can point my audience towards you and be like, yo, homeboy from Brooklyn, next up.
Yeah. So tell me, going into what is your goal, like 2025? How are you approaching, like, so you've been doing the podcast, you said 50, how many episodes have you done so far?
I think we're up on 58.
50, and you do once a week. What's your schedule? Once every 2 weeks?
Yo, mine is whenever the pod that needs to come out needs to come out,
okay.
right?
Because what was the day you started?
I started, the first episode came out October 8th last year.
Oh, wow, it's been over a year. Congrats, bro. That's awesome. So
just a year.
Going on into year 2.5 now, 2025, what's the vision looking like right now? And what changes are you making? How are you approaching it? Are you coming at things differently? What's the outlook like for Chai?
I think for me, year one was proof that I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here.
You're here, bro.
Like, I'm here.
I'll give you that. You're here, bro.
Like, I'm here, right? Year 2025, year two is I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
For me, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. Like, for me, like, the being here is, I needed to know that for myself.
Yeah, now you know for yourself, I'm good enough.
Like,
this is good.
And you know what's funny? It's not even, year one was actually, I'm not good enough.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's like the beauty of life, right?
Yeah.
When I started in that initial heat, I think I'm the hottest shit out, right? Yeah. Year two, I come in with the approach of, yo, I got so much to work on. Again, I still got the security of I'm talented or whatever it is, right?
You have to get better. That's the reality of
right?
things.
Like, I look at it as like, yo, like I love using like basketball as the analogy because I think it's just like sports in general is for me like how I like look at life, right?
Yeah.
Is that rookie season, you're in the league. You're just like figuring out like what is the speed of
this is
the
our
league.
rookie year, bro.
This is our rookie year, right? And rookie year, you see it all the time in the NBA. You're adjusting from like college ball or high school ball to like, yo, you're a professional NBA player now.
Yeah.
But those who make it after rookie contract, who get the extension, are the people who are like, okay, this is the quality of work. Yeah. This is the quality of work ethic.
Yeah.
That it takes to be an NBA athlete.
A second level contract player, yeah.
A second level contract. Like, I don't give a fuck that you got a rookie contract. Like, just like we said before, I don't care that you got 10 episodes out.
Yeah.
Right? But now, okay, you had a rookie season. It doesn't even matter if you average 15.
Yeah. So what are there actual things that you're like trying to do differently now in year two? Like, is it more episodes? Is it more clips? Is it less episodes and more quality? Like, what are the other thoughts? Because for me personally, my plan right now is to do a podcast every 2 weeks. Okay. My plan for 2025 is to do one every single week. Okay. So, because I'm looking at it now where we have something here. Now I'm getting more guests who want to be on the show. How can I scale this to grow? That alone will make me grow it twice as fast.
Absolutely.
At the minimum.
Absolutely.
Maybe even more because of exponential growth, right? So that's one example of how I want to do it, because my thing is, for example, right, if I can get this many views and followers and influence now with even the guests, like the small guests that I've had, if in 2025 I can be cracked out and make twice the work and do twice the value, twice the people, twice the networking, twice the relationships, who knows where this can go? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm looking at 2025 personally.
I think for me, it's building out, putting out, how do I say this? For me, it's like maximizing the quality with the product that I have, right? Yeah. So if I record a podcast, right, it's like I'm saying from like start to finish, right? Because I used to think like, again, like I was doing 2 episodes a week when I first started.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Just putting out content.
That's wild, bro.
But, and you know, there's that has its value.
Yeah. Just to get you getting your feet wet.
Get your feet wet. Like
yeah, definitely.
Again, you expedite your learning process.
Yep.
I think now it's every single one. I don't have a miss. I don't have a bad game. Like I can't have a bad game. I'm not gonna say I don't or I won't.
Yeah.
But my attitude can't be that, oh, I'm going to take this game off.
Yeah.
Right? Every day, every game, I put out on the jersey, and I got to drop 25 to 30. Now, what does that mean? From a practicality perspective, it's from start to finish. Does my guest have a great intake process? Meaning from when we initially converse to when you come to the pod, are you having a good experience?
Okay.
Right?
Like getting you here.
Is that experience fluid? Is it clean? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Right? My entire 25 is building out systems and processes from start to finish, right? Cool. So here is my business manager and producer hitting you, reminding you, getting your chai order, making sure that you're here on time, making sure that you know that there's a pre-production, making sure there's an email template to clarify what you need to bring and what you need to do. Okay, step 1. Now we're here in this session. Am I mentally primed for this? Am I prepped? I used to like come into pods raw dogging it.
Yeah.
No prep.
Yeah.
Like I'm just that nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Kobe is still that nice. LeBron is still that nice.
Yeah.
You don't think that they're looking at game footage?
They have to. Yeah. That's why they're so great.
You don't think that they're prepping for whoever they're playing that day?
Yeah.
Of course, right? So now it's like, okay, once you get here, am I mentally prepped for this conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm mentally prepped for this conversation. The pod goes incredible. Now post. Are you now having a good post relationship? Are we sending the thank you?
Yep.
Are we collaborating in the future?
Yeah.
Am I maintaining that relationship after?
Yeah.
And then on the product side, all the clips that come out. I was telling you before, we used to use like an AI software just to get clips.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yo, if this is going on my page, my producer at one point used to send me 40 clips. And then I used to sit and give feedback on 40 clips.
Wow.
And we used to put out maybe like 12 of them.
Yeah.
Now I only make,
Yeah.
because now it's no longer an AI software. It's me in CapCut.
Yeah.
I put out,
CapCut, shout out.
I don't even have a number of clips that I need to put out any week.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at it as like, I got to get 20 clips. Because if the clip isn't good,
Yeah.
that's not going on my page anymore.
Okay.
So for me, it's like just pure quality maximization,
Yeah,
right?
so that's what I do. I only do 2 clips from the podcast in a week. So every podcast has a shelf life of 2 weeks. So I only do 4 clips
4 clips total
per podcast. Yeah.
per podcast.
Per podcast.
So you do 2 per week, but you have 2
so I do
gaps.
I'll do like Tuesday, Thursday for example, I released an episode today, right? 7:30 p.m. So I'll do a Tuesday clip, a Thursday clip, and the week after I'll do a Monday and a Wednesday. Example.
Okay, and I'm trying to understand. So what is your thought process there?
The idea is go.
Like let me say that. Imagine I ask you, you gotta add 4 more clips.
Yeah.
Could you add 4 more clips?
I could, but I think there would be a slight drop off in quality, only purely out of like burnout, like having to do other things. Yeah, bandwidth.
Okay.
I would say that. I also don't think. I think doing that takes away from the most valuable clips as well. Because in my opinion, I've seen that if I post like 10 clips from the same podcast, me personally, the really good ones get buried in the worst ones. And then if someone watches 3 clips of this podcast, they're not going to want to watch the 8th, 9th, 10th one. But if they watch if they know there's 4, they'll watch all 4. And they know what to expect and when to expect. It's kind of like a TV show. It's like if Game of Thrones was on every single day, it's hard, or the NFL is on every single day. Like the NBA, I'll use the NBA as a reference. We talk about basketball. No one watches the NBA regular season every single day. But when they know it's like the playoffs, there's 2 games a week in the series, they're going to come in and watch both playoff games. I'm not saying that's an exact perfect analogy, but what I'm saying is like, I look at it like I don't want people to get over
inundated with your content.
Yeah, exactly. With the same content. Like I'll also do a street interview in the middle, or me talking to the camera in the middle, but it's not back to back.
Follow-up question there.
Yeah.
Is how do you test the efficacy of your short form clips?
Like the success that you're saying of them? Or?
Let me elaborate.
Yeah.
That you're identifying the best forms of content.
Yes.
Because again, like let's say like you decide, these 4 timestamps, these are the parts that I'm clipping.
Yeah.
how then do you test that against what if you had clipped another portion?
Yeah.
And that one was the one.
Yeah.
Right? Because like we talked about like clip farming, I think off mic, right?
Yeah, we did.
A big part of clip farming is the fact that you're like the mass quantity of clips. The one that's going to go is going to get found.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's like the beauty of like streaming, because these are like, you're talking about like 10-hour streams.
Yeah.
And people are clipping up the exact moment that's going to go.
The viral moment, yeah.
But that's because there's such, like, it's getting product tested in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because everything gets clipped up essentially,
yeah,
right?
Facts, it's true.
Like Jason Lewin, who just hit like 100K on Twitch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The moment that went, that has been popping up on my For You.
When they're all dancing.
When they're all dancing to the Where You At record, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, ETA record, right? That's the one that went. But I'm sure a bunch of clippers clipped up all of that.
Yep.
And that was the one that went. And then, of course, people then continuously clip that piece.
Yes.
So my question to you is that how are we ensuring that we're not missing that moment?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that in a perfect world, right, we have like clippers, I would say. But in the way that it is now, it's just like, I think I have a good sense enough over the most perfect moments, but I don't know enough because I'm not the person that's a viewer, right? So I think the hard part is like I have to trust from your
intuition.
Yeah, my intuition for now, because like until
let's do this to keep us accountable.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want you, and I will do it for me too.
Yeah.
I want you to send me clips.
Yeah.
And I will send you clips.
From this episode?
No.
Oh,
from this episode and in general. We can start with this episode. Let's start with this episode.
Okay.
Let's start with this episode. You send me clips.
I'll watch your show.
Yeah, not even with like your full edits.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'll just watch your show and be like, this timestamp was money.
No.
Okay.
I want you to do 2 extra ones.
Okay.
Like 3 extra ones. Be like, yo, Ihram, check these 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Rank them.
Okay.
Right? And then let's see if our rankings actually like line up. Okay. As a third-party objective audience viewer, and I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna have like my 6th ranking.
Yeah.
But then I'm gonna send you the 12 that we clip
I'm
up.
down. Let's try it out.
Because I wanna see whether we miss things. Because I think as people that are close to the business and the product,
that's a good idea.
There's parts that we may find. Because I've gotten caught up in that.
Like we think it's good, but
we think it's good.
Some other person might not think it's good at all.
Because again, like me and you are. Like there's certain things that me and you will find very valuable that nobody, like very few people will, right? Because there's certain podcasts that I'm like, yo, that's my best podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I'll like send it to my girl or I'll send it to my best friend, and then they'll be like, really? And
that's happened to me.
And it's like, I'm like, but no, I think that was the best one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think it's the best one because if I was an audience person, that's what I would want to listen to.
Yeah.
But my audience may not just be a bunch of me's.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Let's try it out, bro.
Let's try it out. Like I think like again, like I'm so glad for this podcast. I'm so glad for you in this space.
Yeah.
Because I think that like again, like the name Growth Street is so appropriate because I'm so happy that you're giving true value and true gain.
Thank you, bro.
Right?
Yeah, man.
Like like we all are trying to provide value, but I think the way that you do it, the way that this is set up, the underlying ethos of this is what is going to make this valuable.
Yeah, I mean the whole idea literally is like, I know my personal growth streak was this, up, down, left, right, backwards, so much failure, so much hardship. And I know that no matter what, you still are always failing forward. You can always fail forward. You never know where it's going to take you, where you're going to go. I always say this. If you told me I was going to have a freaking podcast, I was going to be a TikToker, YouTube shortser 2 years ago, I said, bro, are you kidding me? Really, bro? Because I never thought that would be me. Never. I thought I was going to keep working a corporate job, make like 100K, 200K, get a bag, do whatever. But Growth Street is knowing that like I'm on my path to grow. I'm growing myself, and I'm growing everyone who's involved in this process. Like Growth Street is everyone coming on this street together to grow, and whatever that is, right? So for me, I could have talked to you about so much shit because you're a cool guy, right? But my whole thing was, I find actual value in you from this podcasting angle, right? Like, how did you book all these cool ass guests? How did you grow your show on all these social media platforms? That's like real value that you have, right? So it's like, if I'm thinking that shit, I'm sure all these other people who are watching you and taking notes are like thinking the same thing. The guy posted today, well, this would now be a couple weeks back, but he's a licensed psychotherapist for like Forbes, all these, he's been recognized across all these big podcasts, all these big platforms. So for me, it's okay. He's known for his opinions on mental health. He's helped so many people with their mental health. I think I want to lean into that expertise, right? So it's how can I find what makes people valuable and actually give it to them? And I'm still trying to figure it out, bro. Again, we're all figuring it out we're a rookie year. If this is my rookie year, I don't got to win rookie of the year, but I got to be, I know that I'm putting up shots. I'm getting good reps and putting good minutes in. I think like where I started, game 1 to where I am now, this is 23. It's like, I know I'm giving more value, more entertainment, and all that shit combined. So I appreciate you saying that, man.
No,
really
absolutely. And I want to, that's important what you said, right? Because it doesn't, if you win rookie of the year, but then year 2, 3, 4, you suck.
Yeah, you're Tyreek Evans, bro.
Who cares?
Are you,
You're
bro?
Tyreek Evans, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to be like Hove has this like incredible thing, right? It's like, you want to be like some hot flash in the pan, or you want to be like the Mona Lisa? You want to be Ralph Lauren?
Yeah.
I want to be Ralph Lauren. Like I want to I don't want to podcast for like a year and be like, again, that's what a lot of these like viral like red pill like
seriously,
pot
bro.
men as a brown man in the space, I'm sure you've heard it from other people in passing or behind your back where it's like another male podcaster like defund mics or whatever the hell it is that they be saying, right? But it's like, those guys are building something to just gain a moment of, oh, I'm hot.
Yeah.
Bro, I want to do this shit for the next 20 years.
Yeah, me too.
I want to pod until like I'm like in my 40s, 50s. Like I want to make whatever, right?
You know
who
Patrick Bet-David is or no?
Yeah.
He's a GOAT, right?
Yeah,
he's one of the GOATs. Like now he's very into the political stuff, but I think when he first started out, even still, I think he's still one of the GOATs in that sense. But he's someone that had no crazy background, and he started doing like videos in his car, and he had to interview Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, and he's interviewed Donald Trump, the former president of the United States. I know for a fact the way I'm doing things right now, I really believe this, and I'm not one to like be
talking shit, because I think like that's talking.
But I truly do believe like my vision of myself, like how you said in 20 years you want to do this, like I really do believe the path that I'm on right now, the way I'm trying to grow, I want to be one of these PBDs, one of these Rogans, one of these guys where it's like I want to have these crazy deep conversations, give really cool value, and like that is the goal. That's like I love it, and I want to do it for a long time. It's not just a flash in the pan moment,
Yeah, because I always look at this. It's like, I traded out, like you said, like I traded out a real career for this.
Yeah, real money, bro.
Like, I traded out real career, real money. Like I'm not doing this to be hot.
Yeah, I moved back home in my fucking parents' basement after
bro. Like I'm not
just to do this, bro.
You think I'm doing this shit to be hot? Like people don't like we talked about sacrifice. Like people have no idea. Like again, I'm not saying it now because I want to say this shit in like 10 years, right? Because like right now, like nobody cares that I made the sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
But when I have it, I want to be like, y'all have no idea what I'm juggling currently, right? But just know that based off of what I am juggling currently, I love this shit, right? And I'm going to be here in the ring putting up all of the shots.
And it's like Snowfall, bro. I built this shit brick by brick.
Brick by brick,
that's what
bro.
I'm saying,
that's the part that people will, again, that's the beauty of podcasting too, though, because you will have visual elements to tell it. Like, I'm going to tell you this because people told me, document everything. Yeah. Because the story is going to be incredible, right? Yeah. And when the story is incredible, you want to be able to look at certain things, right? And be like,
remember this? Yeah.
Remember this? Like, I love looking back at podcasts from like a year ago. Yeah. Because I'm like, damn, that was the type of podcaster I was back then, right? It's like looking at rookie tape, be like, damn, I didn't even have a jumper. Yeah. I didn't even have like a left, like I didn't have like a step back.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? Like I only was able to have one type of conversation, but now it's like, like I've had to develop my game. Yeah. Right.
And you do it, and you realize how far it's come. It's like, oh my God. Like I watched the first one back a month ago, first one I ever did. And I was like, ain't no way I was sounding like that. And the way I do it now, it's like, again, it's so weird. Like even hearing people be like, like the last few podcasts I've done, I don't even know these people, right? And I met them through this, like how I met you. I mean, I know them even less than you. And they're like, wow, like, because the last guy I had, like, it was the one that I went to Penn State for. It was so deep, and the guy, so he was like, I don't know how you did that, but like you took me on like a crazy journey. Like to hear that I could do that to someone I've never met, it was like, I know I'm getting better,
Yeah, no, I think like when you look at your own game, right, and then other people look at your game, you're like you see the things develop, right? Because it's tough, right? Because you're looking at it, it's like, seeing a 1% difference in you from last week to this week is a tough ask. But when you get a long enough time to be here, and you can look 6 months back, at your business, at yourself, you're like, wow,
yeah,
right?
Yep, you learn so much.
it's like such a small win. I have like a very hard, I'm sure your other guests don't have this issue, but maybe you do. I have like a very hard time with like, because I'm such like a creative person, I used to always have such a hard time with like routines and processes. And I'm all like, it may sound like such like the smallest win, but for me it's huge. It's like, yo, like I have now a consistent, because of this, and it wasn't even a true thing when I worked in corporate. I have a real schedule. Right. Like, cause I need to have a real schedule, right? Because of
We're
how many,
similar on that sense.
because of how many things I have going on. I need to, cause I used to always think like, oh, I remember everything.
Me too.
Like,
I've never been an organized person in my entire life.
I've never been, but this business, this podcasting, this like being an entrepreneur has forced me. That's no longer a cop out. That's no longer like, oh, I'm not that type of person. No,
you have to be that person
for me to get to the next level. That's like saying like, yo, in the NBA, it's like, yo, like I only shoot threes. It's like, okay, but like you need a left.
You need defense.
You need defense. Like that's not like, again, just because you're the greatest 3-point shooter ever, like again, like Steph is the greatest 3-point shooter ever, right? But if he didn't have a handle or couldn't pass, or like, you would be a liability. So if I'm the greatest podcast ever, but I'm a disorganized, can't manage my business, I'm a liability.
Can't manage time, can't manage people. I'm the same way as you. Like, I think it's funny how, I don't know if everyone's similar, but it's cool meeting someone so similar to me, because I was someone who hated routines, stayed up late nights. I'll figure it out. I'm always gonna figure it out. I've always got, because I've never really failed in the grand scheme. I've always just figured it out. Like, but this is the first time where it's like, I have to be focused and meticulous, and like even me just posting a podcast every 2 weeks for 22 weeks, like that in my mind is like such a win of consistency, because I was someone who wouldn't even always do my homework.
Were you like a gifted kid?
No, I wasn't.
Like, were you like just like?
No, I was someone who fucking cheated in every class ever. I was never the smart kid in class ever, but I was the one who found, like, if I was not passionate about it, I would find the shortcut to get it done.
To do it,
always.
Right?
I was never the one who was like doing it properly or doing it how it should be. I was always like, all right, I want to play basketball. How can I get this shit done? How can I just cheat? Like, how can I do all that stuff?
Me and my friends used to always joke around about, like, we used to just call it like finessing, right?
Yeah.
And I used to like
fake it till you make it, bro.
I used to always like finesse my way through life, right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, damn, I did well on SATs. I got into college. Like I did all of that, and it's like, and you start becoming delusional as to how good you are because you've done those things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like I still, I did this on my SATs, and then I went to this college and I got this job, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like that's with no discipline, none of that. And you think, oh, I'm just that talented.
Yeah.
Right? Until you meet a challenge that's up to, you're not talented enough. And when the talent is enough, it becomes discipline.
Yeah.
It becomes routine.
That's exactly what it
becomes like true mental fortitude of like, it don't matter, right? Because all of those things, like, again, like I'm the same way, right?
Yeah.
Like finding shortcuts through, like I made it.
Yeah.
But this is entrepreneurship is
you
not.
You can't do that.
You can't lie. You can't lie your way through entrepreneurship. I had a huge ego death when it came to my business. I'm somebody who has, this is like, I said, this is my third podcast. This is probably like my 8th business.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to say, oh, because I used to do a lot, I was working a lot.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that. I had no idea what that meant. Right. Like honestly, like I would say, like I haven't really worked. Until right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Like now, if I look at my schedule, there's no dicking around, right? Yeah. There's no fat on my schedule.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm trying to always trim that fat down, right?
Like, even if you have that free time, it's like, I feel guilty about having it. Like, I got more stuff I got to do.
You know what's crazy? Like, I think the guilt is like a bad. I felt guilt, but I was like, yo, you know what the solution to that is? Is if I feel that guilt, there's a indicator there. Yeah. Right. Like if I feel guilt, I used to always feel like I used to be like, damn, like I'm doing all of this. Then why am I still not happy?
Yeah.
Because I still feel guilt over it. I feel guilt now. It's like I should get back to work.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like if I feel guilt for any moment where I'm like, damn, I'm tired. Like why am I like whatever? I should get to work.
Yeah.
Because like ruminating on that doesn't do anything. But the actual putting in the work,
and that's what changes everything.
It'll make you feel better. Like you just had a psychotherapist on, right?
Yeah.
That level of like depression and thinking about like me, you know what stops that? Motion.
Yeah, it is.
Right, just motion, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have time. Like I'm somebody.
I don't mean I'm talking about. No. Literally, what he told me was, all those feelings of depression, anxiety, and emotions they're all indicators. Like they're all telling you they're all telling you the unfortunate truth of what you actually have to do. Right? It's like you're anxious. Okay, well now you have to go and overcome this social fear, these nerves. Like that, they're all just indicators.
Bro, like. Right before I started this, right? And like, because you asked like why I started this again, right?
Yeah, tell me.
Bro, like a year plus ago, maybe, yeah, a year and a half ago, right? Bro, life is good. Like, I'm making good money at Amazon. I just got promoted. I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I got great friends. I got a great social life. And I'm still unhappy as fuck. Like, I'm still like, it feels like something is missing in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you objectively look at everything, my life is golden.
Yeah.
Right? So then I have to ask, like, why? And you know what's crazy? Like, no matter how much bullshit that entrepreneurship brought to me, I can't ever trade away that I finally feel like I have purpose. I can't trade that away.
You can't.
Like, that is enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course, like, we want, because we're ambitious, we want certain monetary, like, givings, right? We want to take this somewhere, right? But just the fact that I have purpose now in my life, that is honestly worth whatever bullshit that the rest of this is.
It's so worth it, man. And like, I relate to you so much on that, because for me, I don't realize how similar we are until we started talking. When I was in Chicago, right, I thought it was the coolest thing, right? I graduate college, I get a, really insanely paying well job working in tech for LinkedIn, where I go into the office, they're feeding us steak and lobster every single day for free. There's a game room, Mario Kart. I can just go in there, no one will judge me. I'm living this dream life on paper. I have an apartment on the 45th floor in the Loop on the river. I have a pretty girlfriend. I have all these things on paper, and I would still feel this hole inside of me, like, why this doesn't feel like my life path. And I had to really figure that out. But it's all that. Does your life align with your purpose? That is like, some people don't have that light. I don't think some people like don't care for that thing, but some people like us who do care, it means a lot to us. So it's like, how can I fuel? Like, I need to like keep that fire alive, because when that fire feels low, your entire feeling is like low, and I was self-isolated. I ended up breaking up things with that girlfriend because like I just was so mentally impacted by my lack of direction and growth and where I wanted to be, that it was like all of that. And now I'm doing what I'm doing now, dude. And it's like, I've lived at home, and I never thought I lived at home. And it was like a rebirth, as you said. And I really feel like I have no money compared to what I did before. I am in my parents' basement compared to a skyrise apartment, and I feel 10 times, 100 times happier because I'm on my mission, and it feels like my journey, my story, rather than being in this dark cloud or whatever where I was.
I think that like devotion to that purpose is what we all like kind of like look for. Because I don't know if it's like a hot take, but it's a hot take. I think that people who feel that desire and don't honor it lead to general unhappiness in the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could get everything else perfected.
Yeah.
Right? But when it's still not your purpose, it doesn't matter how good that shit looks, right?
Yes.
Because some people, like, you hear, like, all the time, like, where these people are, like, billionaires, right? And they're still unhappy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's because you just lucked up and found some money. That's, like, again, like, that could be the easy part, right? For you.
Yeah.
But you can't even keep it, or you can't even be happy because you didn't honor your life's purpose.
Yeah.
And, everybody has, like, a different life purpose, and you have to honor yours, right?
Yeah.
Like, for some of because I used to feel like, oh, I'm sure you probably felt the same way in your friend group or your family. I always felt like the black sheep.
Yeah, literally, This is so funny.
Like, I always felt like the black sheep, right? I was like, how come everyone around me, my sister, my cousins, my friends, are all good going to work and, like, getting to work and getting good money and then, like, focusing on their relationships and, like, building towards, like, a marriage and a family. And I'm like, why is none of that sticking? I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Now, knowing myself like a little bit better, I'm like, that shit would have never worked for me.
Yeah.
Because imagine I did force myself to do that at 23, 24.
Yeah.
Imagine the goal was like, yo, I'm 23 now. I have a good paying job. I'm going to like focus on getting the kid and the family, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Probably fool myself for like maybe 10 years, right? But then 15 years down the line, I probably look at the girl that I'm with and the kids and I'm like, damn, did I trade my real life purpose for this?
Yeah. And then you're going to resent these people who don't even deserve it purely because, like, you did something you didn't want to do.
I think about that, like, with my parents a lot. I don't know if you do, like, because, again, like, my parents, like, obviously really, pushed me towards a specific direction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, damn, if I continue on this direction, life-wise, I'm going to resent you. Because even now, like, sometimes that creeps in. Because I think about, like, my skill set and who I was at 16.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I probably wasn't the person that you probably should have sent to college.
Yeah.
Like, if you really paid attention, like, I think about not
Yeah,
like knowing myself.
Yeah, I have too.
I'm like, if you paid attention to who that kid was always going to be a hustler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't built to like go to school and get like
Get a job and
get a job
yeah.
and like sit somewhere for like
9
8
hours,
9
yeah.
hours a day, right? And then go home. Like that
was
was
never
never
you.
that kid.
Yeah.
Right? So again, like it's tough because I wish my parents like at that time like knew me better
Yeah.
to guide me towards that.
Yeah.
But again, like I can't resent that and hold that against them now,
Yeah.
right? But now knowing myself, why would I continue to subjugate myself to some shit?
That's not even who you are.
That's not even who I am. Because in the
Yeah.
long term, I'm not fooling anybody. It's still
Yeah.
because I realized I was like, oh, I still finessed my way into a promotion at Amazon. But at some point, I was never gonna put in like the actual work to progress there because
Yeah.
it's not what I.
Literally, it's crazy the things you're saying. It's like I'm talking to myself in a mirror. it's really surreal because even my whole thing was. Even like I'm just gonna connect you. Even when I went to LinkedIn, it was the same thing. My parents, I was old. I'm the oldest in my family, and no one older than me was really enough of a mentor to figure out how I wanted to do college, do any of that shit. So we go to college. My parents drive down to Maryland with me to pick my classes, and they're like, oh well, you should be a doctor. Then my dad's like, oh, you should also take business classes. So I ended up taking like the hardest business class, the hardest math class, the hardest science class. I don't even know what I want to be. I just know I want to go to this school, and what happens? I get a 1.7 GPA first semester. I get fat. I'm in this terrible relationship with my girlfriend from the home and all this shit's going on. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Even then, as I kept going, I was looking at LinkedIn. Fast forward, same thing happened. I'm there. And I thought, at least of my life, I was going to go there, be the best worker because like I like to be the best and everything. But I was like, I don't even care enough to want to be the best here. Like, I'm so not wired to want this to be my life that I didn't want to go the extra mile. Whereas people on my team, people in my cohort, because there was a cohort of us, there was like 24 of us, everyone else would be like, try to like kiss the most ass or spend the most time after work to do the extra volunteering events or come in person the days where it's not mandatory to do these different things. Not in a bad way, just more of like I want to be the one of one at this company. And for me, it never was like that. I was like, this is not who I want to be. But then when I'd go home and I had this idea of Growth Street in October, so I started work that year in July 2022. This idea came to me October 2022, a couple months later. I would love to go home and just think about this idea. And I'm like, well, that's a fucking sign that like the work is amazing. It's cool. And it's like one of the top companies, but it still was not me. And even going back to the whole like parenting, it's like, I don't blame them because it's a whole different like generation and everything, all that. So I get that part. But for me, it's like now that I know what I want, like even my parents like say now, I'm glad my parents do believe me, which I love that they do that. But there were moments in the beginning too where they were like you're sure? Like I don't think this is smart. Like I don't know if you should do that. And for me, it was like, well, I know now what I want. I'm someone also who's always lived by the saying where it's like, if I ever know what I want, which is not always the case, I will get what I want. So now this is like me going to, I know it, so I'm going to go chase it. I don't care how different it is from everyone else. I think this way for a reason. I'm doing a discredit to myself and people that really do love me if I'm not chasing my own dream. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and it's like I want to always max out my usefulness, right? And my usefulness is not going to be maxed
your potential
out.
too.
My potential, my usefulness, right? Because it's like, to bring it to another sports analogy, right? Like Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady's offense is not as effective as Lamar Jackson and the offense that's supposed to be
like
built
Drake
around
singing
him.
Country is not going to be Drake.
Drake, right? Like you have to think that, like, yeah, he's like an alien. He might, right? But I think like when you're in the wrong system, right? Like again, you could be an A+ player, but you could be on the completely wrong team.
It's the reason why kids in school who always fail out of high school are sometimes the best entrepreneurs in life because they were never meant for school. They had a different way they thought about things.
I think that's like honestly like a pretty big tragedy that we put on people, right? Where it's like it's so difficult to pivot in life because of how like certain like corporate systems and like institutions are set up, right?
Yeah.
Like I think about like college, for example, right? It's like you're putting on this like debt on your soul that you now have to like some people at 28 might figure out like, yo, you know what? I actually am not meant to be here.
Yeah.
I'm actually meant to do this. But the reality is that you got debt, you got bills to pay, you got rent.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do I now pivot?
Navigate
right?
that, yeah.
Like, again, you made a drastic life decision.
Yeah.
right? Like you left your job, you moved back home, right?
Yeah.
And again, back to sacrifice. Most people aren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
Or, and you know, some of it is like also like I understand like my privilege and that too.
Yeah.
I max out my risk tolerance.
Yeah.
Like my risk tolerance was through the roof.
Yeah.
Right.
Same.
Because I know worst case scenario.
I can go back.
I go back home. I got family. I got friends. Like, you know what I'm saying? Worst case
I can go back, get my job, another job if I need to. There's always, we're confident enough as people, I think, to know we'll always figure it out. We deserve to take the risk now while this is the time of our lives where the risk has a chance for the highest reward and the lowest payback as well. Like if it doesn't go our way.
In poker, there's like a concept called like risk to ruin, right? Like your ruin metric, right? Like you have to be comfortable with that, right? Because your expected value is the combination of like the all outcomes and the probability of each outcome.
Yeah.
But the ruin means that you never play again. But again, in life, how many things are truly fully ruined?
Yeah.
Right? You alive, you breathing.
Yeah.
You're not ruined.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to wake up no matter what. Like I've seen people turn things around from the most insane circumstances. I've seen people take on $2 million in credit debt, right?
Yeah.
And then COVID hits on their restaurant. Did those people just stop? No, but they turned it around.
They had to. They had to figure it out.
Was it uncomfortable? Was it painful? Yes. But
Yeah.
so is everything else in life.
Yeah.
Right?
Nah,
So
dude,
is being at the
that's
wrong
real.
job. So is being in the wrong marriage. It's all uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's why the biggest thing that we have to do is like focus on like what is right. Everyone knows in their own mind what's right for them. And my whole thing is like the whole idea is I call myself like if I had to give myself a professional thing like a title, I'd say I'm a professional dreamer. That's my whole thing. How can I
like
dream?
that.
Yeah, bro. How can I dream? How can I get other people to dream? How can I inspire people to dream? That's my whole thing, bro. So like for me, I just want to say like we probably talk for hours and hours and hours. The last thing I want to ask you for is for someone who's watching at home who wants to be like you, want to create what you've created and live a life that, you know, they look at you and say, you know, I want to be like him when I'm older, or I want to start something on my own. And what do you have to say to that person? Whether it's tangible advice, whether it's a mindset, like what advice you have even for your younger self?
Know yourself, be yourself, and be solid. I think knowing yourself, I look at the first 27 years of my life as that, is learning who I am. Be myself, right? If I'm discontent with who that person is, I need to change those adjustments. I have to be tired of my own shit, right? And then the be solid, I think, is the biggest advice that I can give, right? I think that if you are short on talent, if you're short on money, it doesn't cost you anything to be solid.
Yeah.
And the number of people that are truly solid in my version of the word is very low in this world. So there is a quantitative value to those people. Rich Paul, right? LeBron's guy, right? Bro, like he talked about, he's like, yo, he was like, yo, he wasn't an agent before he met Bron, and people think Bron just gave that title to him. Nah, that was a dude who was getting money in the streets, but Bron saw him as a solid individual, and that's where the opportunity comes, right? And then when that opportunity comes, this goes back to the knowing yourself.
Yep.
Do you know yourself enough to make the most out of this opportunity? Do you know your skill sets? Do you know your strengths? Do you know your gaps?
Yeah.
And I think there's a concept in Greek mythology called like your fatal flaw, right? The thing that is going to be your Achilles heel, essentially. And if you can't identify that, right, you're always going to be ruined because your life is going to constantly give you that same challenge. Like, again, me and you said it. We're people that struggle with
Focus,
routine and discipline.
Yeah, discipline. That's literally it.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what God keeps giving me? He keeps showing me, yo, unless you get this part of your life right,
This shit ain't gonna work.
this is not going to work. Right? And I would say for anybody like listening, right? Like that is the biggest thing, right? Like don't be your own worst enemy. When you conquer your own self, the rest of this shit is easy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure you've realized that, like, yo, like you will succeed because of who you are. It don't matter what circumstances. Like it don't matter if they take podcast mics away tomorrow or if they take YouTube down tomorrow. You will still figure it out because you're you. Right? Because you've conquered self or are continuously trying to conquer self. But once you do, The rest of this shit
clip,
is easy.
yo, it's clip, yeah.
The rest
man.
of this shit is easy.